system.
I'm joined now by political strategist Angela Rye, co-founder of Impact DC, and by Republican strategist David Winston, senior advisor to Speaker John Boehner. Good morning. Good to see both of you.
Good morning.
There's no doubt, Angela, that the number of gun owners even who feel the way Wayne LaPierre feels is smaller than it was. Newtown definitely did have an impact on gun owners and non-gun owners alike. But are the Democrats really in a position, or do they have the right strategy to use that to their advantage?
Well, I think right now this is less about strategy for once and more about what are the American people saying. The president has their pulse. Wayne LaPierre does not. I remember in elementary school I had to take a current event every single week. We cut out a newspaper clip, and I'm wondering if he's not paying attention to the news. I mean, we have Newtown with 20 kids gone. We have Chicago, which is well over 500 homicides at this point from last year. And you have this, new killer on the rampage in Los Angeles. At some point, the gun laws can no longer control us. We have to control them.
Well, I wonder, too, David, if the NRA is really a little bit tone deaf here. Wayne LaPierre continued to voice opposition even to universal background checks, which do seem, if anything does on Capitol Hill, to have the broadest support. Take a listen.
At first glance, it sounds like a reasonable, good idea, but there's nothing universal about it at all. Think about it. Criminals won't be part of that universe. That's common sense. They'll steal their guns, or they'll get them and everything else they want on the black market.
The polls, David, not on the NRA's side. 52% of Americans support stricter gun control laws. Overwhelming support for those universal background checks, 92%. 56% support a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Is the NRA tone deaf?
Well, I think clearly there's a reaction to Newtown that is not particularly unexpected given the horrific nature of that tragedy. And I think the challenge here for everybody, the president included, Republicans, the NRA, is what's the art of the possible here? What can actually be done to move things forward? So I think we've seen some areas, i.e. dealing with mental health, looking at some of the backgrounds of individuals in terms of how do you put that together in a way to get a good background check and make sure that people who shouldn't have guns don't get them. And I think there's a real opportunity here. The problem that you're beginning to see a little bit from both sides is this sort of drawing a line in the sand, and when you start doing that, the art of the possible becomes less and less.
Well, that makes perfect sense. And there's also, I think, an optics question that has been raised, Angela. The president's going to Chicago for obvious reasons. Absolutely terrible problem with gun violence there, and obviously it's also a city he knows very well, but it's a city with strict gun control laws, and people on the other side are saying, look, stricter laws don't work. Does he have a tough argument there?
Well, I don't think so, and here's why. We have other states throughout the country that have implemented stand your ground laws, and these are designed to protect homeowners and others who feel threatened. It's a subjective standard of threat and fear. And those laws, too, have not protected the people. You can look no further than a Trayvon Martin and a Jordan Davis in Florida. Those laws don't protect either. So I'm not saying that Chicago necessarily has the answer, but I am saying that we've got to move a lot closer to finding a solution. What we have right now is not working, and even if what Chicago has right now is not working, we've got to move the ball further down the field so that we can really find a solution that works for our country.
Yeah, and you talked, David, about drawing a line in the sand, and often these arguments, on either side can be a little bit strident. For example, in the Google Town Hall, the president, again, found himself trying to reassure gun owners that he doesn't want to take their handguns away. And you've heard that from a lot of people, including Gabby Giffords and her husband, who are gun owners. Yes. Is it helpful to put these things out there that don't seem to be the case at all, even by people who are gun owners and support the right to bear arms?
Well, going back to sort of what Angela was saying there in terms of like all the gun laws that are out there, that again, Chicago's got very strict gun laws, Connecticut had gun laws that in theory prohibited a lot of the weapons that ended up being used here in some cases. The dynamic here is really figuring out what's going to work, and I think what's occurring here, and you're seeing some people who are NRA members, some who are clearly on the other side of the issue, there's a real chance here in terms of trying trying to get to some movement forward. And I think what worries me in terms of watching this debate as it evolves is that people are sort of retreating into their respective corners as opposed to figuring out what could actually happen. And I think the best example is in terms of focusing on mental health. Why can't mental health records be available so people can use those as background checks? I think everybody agrees that that would be a significant addition in terms of gun control and access. And yet it seems like we're not any closer to getting there than we were prior to Newton.
Well, I hope that's not the case, and I hope more reasoned discussion can take place. David Winston, thank you. Angela Rye,
Pleasure.
thanks for coming in. The tax